What happens when a young rising star is thrown into the spotlight alongside a Hollywood powerhouse known for his relentless drive for perfection? Despite playing Chuck Connor's son on The Rifleman, Johnny Crawford was secretly terrified to work with him. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but behind the scenes, things were far more intense. What was it about Connors that made Johnny so uneasy? And how did their relationship transform as the cameras kept rolling? Let's dive into the fascinating untold story of their bond, both on and off the screen. Johnny Crawford's big break. Despite starting his career at a very young age, Johnny Crawford's performance as Mark McCain in The Rifleman was the one that really launched him into the public eye. But did you know he almost didn't land the role? Johnny was attracted to the entertainment industry early on. Born in Los Angeles, California, on March 26, 1946, he was drawn to show business from the start. In the 1950s, he became a national sensation as a member of the beloved Mickey Mouse Club. But while that exposure put him in the spotlight, it was The Rifleman that would define him as a young actor. Yet, stepping into such a major role came with unexpected challenges. The Rifleman was a big step up for Johnny. Though he had been honing his skills on the Mickey Mouse Club, this was a far more demanding and serious role. Imagine being just a kid and suddenly sharing the screen with a Hollywood giant like Chuck Connors. The pressure to hold his own alongside Connors, who brought incredible depth and intensity to his character, was overwhelming. However, Johnny's big break wasn't without its struggles. He lacked experience in playing an emotionally complex and physically demanding role like Mark McCain, though he had the natural talent and determination to succeed. On set, Johnny had to adapt not just to the high expectations of television, but also to the weight of playing a leading role. With Chuck Connors towering at 6'6" and known for his commanding presence, working with him wasn't just intimidating, it was a test of Johnny's resilience. Despite the challenges, Johnny's breakout role marked the beginning of his career growth. One of the most unforgettable elements of the show was his chemistry with Connors. But what audiences didn't see was the real struggle behind the scenes. How Johnny had to conquer his fears, meet the demands of the industry, and prove himself as more than just a child star. With a devoted fan base and a solid acting career, The Rifleman became a massive hit, and Johnny Crawford became a household name. His performance as Mark McCain won him recognition and admiration, especially for how effortlessly he showcased his range and charisma at such a young age. How did Johnny handle the pressure of performing with such an experienced star? And what impact did it have on his future in Hollywood? Let's take a closer look at the intense dynamic between Johnny and Chuck, and the unexpected turns Johnny's career took after The Rifleman. Chuck Connors' adventure beyond Hollywood. What if the actor who played Lucas McCain had a life even more daring than the untamed West he depicted on screen? There are many surprises in Chuck Connors' real-life story. Grab your popcorn as we unfold. Prior to becoming one of the most well-known figures in Hollywood, Chuck Connors established a strong career as a professional athlete. Connors was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1921. He was a multi-sport star who was naturally gifted. Connors was a member of the Boston Celtics during the first NBA season, 1946-47. His basketball career was short, but it was the start of his athletic career. Two of the main characteristics that would later define his on-screen presence were his height, 6'5", and athletic capability. In addition, Connors was a professional baseball player. His Major League Baseball career was brief, although he was a member of the Chicago Cubs and Brooklyn Dodgers franchises. His athleticism was enhanced by his time playing baseball, and as he went on to play tough, physically strong roles, his abilities were clearly seen. In spite of his early sporting achievements, Connors finally switched to acting and discovered that Hollywood was his true calling. Although he had the physical presence required for powerful, commanding roles, thanks to his athletic background, his unquestionable charm was what made him an adored celebrity. Chuck Connor's life was drastically impacted by his sincere passion for rodeos and cowboy culture. The genuine, harsh lifestyle of rodeo competitors inspired and delighted him, and he regularly visited rodeo events. For Connors, his passion for Western customs was both personal and professional. The qualities that rodeo competitors embodied, tough independence and physical prowess, captivated him. Connors played the cowboy in practically all of his acting roles, including those in a number of other Western movies and television series. He took great satisfaction in depicting folks who embodied the morally upright, powerful values of the American West. Chuck Connor's love of the West was interwoven with his identity and wasn't merely a decision for his acting. He resided in areas where he could appreciate the broad vastness and the beauty of nature that he valued. His experiences in nature, such as hiking, camping, and exploring the American West's wilderness, were a regular part of his life and helped him relate to the characters he played. Aside from his acting jobs, Connors loved hunting and fishing. In addition to enjoying them as hobbies, he used them as a means of re-establishing his connection with nature and escaping the demands of celebrity. His love for the outdoors combined his passion for Western culture with a grounded, individualistic way of living, reflecting the tough, independent nature of his most well-known part. As a fervent advocate for veterans' rights and the military, Connors was committed to making sure that service members received the respect and assistance they deserved. Throughout his life, he demonstrated his patriotism and regularly used his fame to promote causes close to his heart, like aiding veterans of the armed forces and fostering a sense of national pride. Connors thought about running for office at one point, but he decided against pursuing a full-time career in politics. Nonetheless, he continued to be active in politics in his senior years, speaking out on matters that affected his nation. Chuck Connor's personal life was focused on family, despite his public life being full of adventure and excitement. Elizabeth Riddell was his first wife, and Kamala Devi was his second. Connors has a close relationship with his 4 children from both marriages. Connors made time for his kids in spite of his hectic work schedule because he took his responsibility as a father very seriously. They developed a strong familial bond that was significant to him by traveling with him, going to rodeos with him, and spending time outside with him. Johnny Crawford's unseen journey. Johnny Crawford discovered his true calling in music and history behind the scenes of Hollywood stardom, setting out on an invisible path that very few fans ever witnessed. After the Rifleman, what inspired this quiet artist? Let's find out. Johnny Crawford joined the music industry after leaving the Rifleman, putting out a number of albums and singles in the 1960s. His ability to transition from acting to music was demonstrated by the success of Cindy's Birthday, one of his best-known tunes. Even though he didn't become as well-known as he was as a child actor, his music appealed to listeners of all ages, and he was recognized for his soft pop vocals and musical range. Johnny really enjoyed the swing and big band music of the 1940s. In addition to performing live, he founded the Johnny Crawford Orchestra and captivated audiences with his performances and arrangements of swing-era favorites. He was able to discover creative fulfillment outside of acting because of his strong affinity for this kind of music, which brought out a more sophisticated and creative side of himself. Johnny had a particular interest in World War II and the American Civil War. He developed a strong interest in collecting military antiques and accumulated a sizable collection over time. He became well-versed in the narrative and specifics of historical events, and his love with these eras of history extended beyond merely collecting artifacts. Along with his collection, Johnny devoted a lot of time to studying military history, going to events that sparked his interest, and making relationships with historians who shared his views. His pursuit of knowledge demonstrated a deep understanding of history and its lessons, which reflected his search for purpose outside of amusement. Johnny was a devoted family man who spent more time with his loved ones as he retreated from the spotlight. Being removed from the demands of celebrity, his private life was characterized by serenity. Spending time at home, fostering intimate relationships, and engaging in happy hobbies were all simple things that provided him delight. Johnny was passionate about history, music, and photography. He frequently photographed wildlife and landscapes since he took great satisfaction in capturing the environment with his camera. His passion for photography was a reflection of his need to make an artistic and meaningful relationship with the world. He started using his photos as a creative outlet outside of performing and music. Johnny experienced health issues in his later years, including being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Johnny maintained his relationships to the people and interests that were most important to him, in spite of the challenges he faced. Despite his health problems, he never lost his passion for history, music, or his introspective, quiet personality. The unexpected soft side of Chuck Connors. Could the actor who portrayed the tough, uncompromising Lucas McCain have a soft, caring side? The response for Johnny Crawford was a surprising yes. Chuck Connors' harsh, no-nonsense depiction as Lucas McCain on The Rifleman made him most famous, but many of his co-stars, notably Johnny Crawford, discovered a more gentle, more empathetic side of him behind the scenes. With his massive physique and fierce professionalism, Connors may be scary, but he also showed a surprising amount of tenderness, particularly toward his younger co-stars. Over time, Johnny Crawford, who had been intimidated by Connors' commanding presence at first, came to appreciate this gentler side. Johnny initially thought Chuck was a huge character who demanded respect due to his size, his athletic background, and his serious acting style. In addition to Connors' physical presence, Johnny was terrified of him during the early stages of filming The Rifleman because of his high expectations. For a new actor, Chuck's reputation for pressuring his co-stars to achieve their best performances could be scary. However, Johnny came to see that Connors' rough personality was only one aspect of who he was as he spent more time with Chuck. Johnny and other young performers were frequently made to feel at ease on set by Connors, who had a strong fondness for kids. Later, Johnny thought about how Chuck treated him like an older brother and mentor, giving him guidance on life as well as acting. Chuck's generosity went beyond the set. He would frequently stop by to talk with Johnny, reducing his anxieties and giving him a sense of importance as a colleague. His counsel was always realistic and frequently focused on the value of diligence, self-control, and commitment. Nonetheless, it was given in a kind manner that ran counter to his gruff, on-screen persona. This sudden tenderness wasn't limited to Johnny. As they got to know Chuck better, many of his co-stars on The Rifleman began to respect and enjoy his compassionate disposition. He was a well-liked character on set because he frequently took the time to listen to others, offer support, and offer guidance. His versatility as an actor and a person was demonstrated by his ability to strike a balance between his tough demeanor and his softness. Finding Chuck Connors' tender side aided Johnny Crawford's development as a young man, adjusting to the demands of Hollywood as much as an actor. Johnny realized that Chuck's hardness wasn't a facade, but rather a quality of his personality that was enhanced by a great reservoir of understanding and empathy. For Johnny, this realization marked an immense change, and he would go on to reflect on his interactions with Chuck with appreciation and thankfulness. How their relationship evolved. Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford's relationship started off tense and fearful, but eventually developed into one of profound friendship, mentorship, and respect for one another. As a young, anxious actor, Johnny was thrown into a challenging part with an experienced veteran like Chuck when he first began working on The Rifleman. At that time, Chuck's exaggerated attitude terrified Johnny on a professional and physical level. Johnny was uneasy since Connors was a tough, no-nonsense performer who was notorious for challenging his co-stars. Johnny was still figuring out his place in Hollywood as a young actor, and Chuck's high expectations just made things more difficult. At first, Johnny was burdened by Chuck's expectations. Chuck demanded excellence from everyone around him, including himself, and he wasn't one to give credit often. Johnny occasionally found it difficult to live up to those high expectations because he was still learning the basics of the industry. But at first, Johnny was unaware that Chuck's roughness and passion sprang from a strong wish to see him succeed. Chuck's reputation as a harsh guy on set was intended to challenge Johnny and help him develop as an actor, not to scare him. In their shared scenes, Chuck instilled in Johnny his belief in the value of hard effort, discipline, and dedication to the profession. Over the course of the seasons, Johnny came to see that Chuck's tough appearance was only one aspect of his nature. Beneath the severe exterior and uncompromising work ethic, there was a mentor who truly cared for him. Johnny was mentored by Chuck, who gave him guidance on overcoming the demands of Hollywood as well as performing. He gave Johnny advice on how to remain resilient and confident while he dealt with the industry's ups and downs. Chuck became more than simply a co-star to Johnny. He was a father figure and mentor who genuinely cared about his success. They went from a fear-based relationship to one based on mutual respect. Johnny started to value Chuck's tough love, realizing that it was essential to his growth as an actor. As a result, Chuck began to respect Johnny's development and commitment to his art. By the end of The Rifleman, Johnny and Chuck had developed a close friendship and trusting relationship, and he saw Chuck as a lifelong friend as well as a mentor. In retrospect, Johnny attributes a large portion of his accomplishments to Chuck Connor's mentoring and advice. Once frightened by his tall co-star, the small kid had developed into a self-assured young man prepared to take on the demands of the film industry. Additionally, Chuck, who had first been a strict mentor, now saw Johnny as a peer and someone he was honored to have collaborated with. They began a friendship that would last long after the cameras stopped rolling when they traveled together on The Rifleman. Their relationship, which developed from early fear to unbreakable trust, became the mainstay of The Rifleman and showed a side of Hollywood friendship that not many people get to see. Johnny Crawford's reflections on Chuck. As his career progressed and the years passed, Johnny Crawford frequently found himself thinking back on his collaboration with Chuck Connors on The Rifleman. The connection that started off as one of intimidation and terror changed to one of profound respect and appreciation. In interviews and introspection, Johnny frequently recalled how important Chuck had been to his growth as an actor and to the way he saw the world. In retrospect, Johnny saw his time with Chuck as one of the most impactful and defining times in his career. In his remarks, Johnny highlighted the emotional complexities of working with someone like Chuck Connors. At first, Johnny was frightened by Chuck's commanding personality and high expectations as a budding actor. Chuck, who had a reputation for being harsh, did not give praise easily. Thus, Johnny felt under pressure to do well. At times, Johnny remembered, he was anxious, wondering if he could live up to Chuck's high standards. Johnny eventually understood, though, that Chuck's tough appearance was only a reflection of his passion for his work and his desire to see his co-stars succeed. Even though it felt like a huge task, Johnny valued Chuck's constant encouragement to improve. Johnny also had positive things to say about Chuck's mentoring. Johnny saw a loving, compassionate, and supportive side of Chuck, despite his reputation as a tough, no-nonsense actor. Chuck would frequently advise Johnny on how to deal with the challenges of the Hollywood system in addition to acting. Johnny recalled how Chuck would take the time to talk about his own professional hardships, providing insight into the difficulties and demands that he had encountered as a budding actor. In a field that may frequently feel frightening and intimidating, this advice made Johnny feel less alone. In Johnny's thoughts, Chuck's strong sense of duty as a mentor was the most notable aspect. Chuck saw that Johnny was still a youngster when he first began dealing with him. He was teaching Johnny life lessons, such as how to be disciplined, resilient, and how to deal with both success and failure, in addition to how to behave. In addition to their on-screen father-son relationship, Johnny viewed Chuck as a father figure since he truly cared about his welfare. By the end of their time together on The Rifleman, Johnny viewed Chuck as someone who had influenced him both personally and as an actor, demonstrating that their friendship went beyond the professional realm. Later in life, Johnny frequently talked highly of Chuck Connors in interviews, thanking him for what he had learned. Johnny admitted that his career probably would have gone in a different direction if Chuck hadn't had an impact. Chuck taught his students how to navigate the entertainment industry's difficulties with professionalism and honesty in addition to acting. Johnny's thoughts on Chuck revealed a deep respect for the tough love that, although it had initially appeared frightening, was actually an essential component of his career path. The lasting legacy of The Rifleman. One of the most recognizable Western television programs of its time was The Rifleman, which ran from 1958 to 1963. The show was more than simply a professional turning point for Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford. It was a life-changing event that would forever alter their careers and lives. Beyond its critical and financial success, the show left a lasting impact on American television, the two stars' careers, and their personal lives. It also forged a special friendship between them. Johnny's lengthy and diverse career in entertainment began with The Rifleman. Johnny's early career was defined by his portrayal of Mark McCain, the son of Lucas McCain, Chuck Connors, even though he would later pursue other acting roles and even consider a career in music. Through the performance, Johnny developed his acting abilities and acquired the skills he would need to succeed in the future. When Johnny thought back on his time on the show, he frequently mentioned the professional and personal lessons he had received from Chuck Connors. Johnny was developed into a skilled performer on the set of The Rifleman, where he discovered the value of self-control, concentration, and emotional complexity. For Chuck Connors, The Rifleman established his legacy in the film industry. Because of his physical attributes, Lucas McCain was a perfect fit for the part, and it was because of this persona that Chuck came to represent the tough, rugged Western hero. Chuck became one of the most well-known actors of the era, thanks to the success of the show. He had already competed professionally in sports and starred in a number of movies, but his performance on The Rifleman was what really made him famous. The series made him a popular hero among Western lovers and gave him the chance to demonstrate his ability as an actor by blending physical action with the emotional depth of a father figure. The Rifleman inspired a generation of spectators beyond their own careers. In addition to its action-packed stories, it was renowned for its examination of family relationships, particularly the bond between Lucas and Mark, the father and son. The show's portrayal of the close relationship between a father and son resonated with viewers, making it a favorite among families. Additionally, the success of the show paved the way for subsequent Western series and helped television reach its zenith in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Long after the last episode aired, Chuck and Johnny both had an impact on Hollywood. For Chuck, playing Mark McCain solidified his place as a television legend, while for Johnny, it was a stepping stone. Their collaboration on The Rifleman marked a turning point in their professional lives, and their enduring friendship served as evidence of the connections made via common experience. Fans of the program still honor its influence today, ensuring that The Rifleman's legacy endures in popular culture. Interestingly, The Rifleman is still relevant today, even decades after its original run. The lessons Johnny Crawford learned from his time with Chuck Connors. Among the first things Chuck taught Johnny was the value of professionalism and commitment to the profession. Chuck Connors had a reputation for being devoted to his profession, and he expected the same of everyone around him. Chuck's unwavering work ethic inspired Johnny to give his all, even when the task was challenging or intimidating. Whether it was getting ready for a difficult scenario or making sure his performances were flawless, Chuck set the standard high. Johnny soon discovered that success in Hollywood required dedication, discipline, and a never-ending quest for greatness. Talent alone was insufficient. Chuck would frequently remind Johnny that realizing the part and delivering honesty to each performance were more important aspects of acting than simply learning lines. The The strength of resilience was yet another important lesson Johnny learned from his time with Chuck. Hollywood can be a harsh and cruel place, especially for a young performer. Johnny soon discovered that obstacles, criticism, and rejection were all a part of the process. Johnny learned from Chuck Connors, who had gone through his own share of hardships and obstacles in his line of work, to accept failure and turn it into a chance to do better. He would frequently narrate tales of his early years, career setbacks, and how tenacity eventually paid off. Johnny was deeply impacted by Chuck's capacity to remain composed and focused in the face of difficulty, which gave him a sense of fortitude that would benefit him throughout his professional life. Another significant thing Johnny took away from Chuck Connors was the importance of confronting obstacles head-on in order to gain confidence. At first, Chuck's commanding physical presence and refined acting abilities terrified Johnny. But Connors' strategy for their on-screen collaboration gave Johnny the confidence to take risks, step up, and overcome his fear of failing. Chuck Connors never allowed Johnny to back down from a tough scene or a trying situation because he saw his potential. Johnny discovered that the secret to developing as an actor was to embrace anxiety and uncertainty, and that confidence comes from consistently stepping outside of one's comfort zone. Possibly one of the most significant things Johnny took away from Chuck Connors was the need for support and mentoring. Even though Chuck presented himself as tough on set, Johnny eventually realized that Chuck actually cared about him. Chuck stepped in as a mentor, helping people navigate the complexities of Hollywood life in addition to acting. Even in a field that can often appear shallow and cutthroat, he taught Johnny the value of remaining grounded and having a strong sense of self. Chuck would often give tips on how to cope with the public, the demands of celebrity, and the highs and lows of an entertainment career. Chuck became more than simply a co-star to Johnny. He became a father figure who looked out for his best interests. Did their bond leave a lasting impact on Johnny's career and legacy? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's discuss this incredible Hollywood duo. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss more jaw-dropping stories from the golden age of television.